Okay. Literally.
How to just restart,
Okay, I'm
restart,
restarting.
refresh.
Hi, friends. Welcome to the Too Scared to Ask podcast. This week's episode is featuring my first special guest, my younger brother, Marek.
Hey, everybody.
Today, we'll be diving deep into your questions about friendship, but before we do, quick disclaimer. This is all very much unprofessional, candid, personal opinion style advice. Take what resonates and ignore the rest. Before we dive in, a little bit about us.
So, my name is Marek. Once again, I am 24. I am Natalie's younger brother, so there are some things to be said about that. But I am a gay man, so I do think that my viewpoint will be a little bit different than hers. And for our viewers listening, I think that'll be good too, to kind of get a little bit of different aspects of what we consider good friendships and more.
Yes, I'm 3 years older than Marek. I'm 27, and so I think our views are going to be a little bit different about friendship, but hopefully I had a thought and I lost it.
Well, hopefully the different perspectives you guys can kind of take a little bit from each one, mix it together. We're not here to be giving any professional advice, but I will say I think both of us are very intellectually smart when it comes to relationships, emotions, and kind of handling that. I myself, I'm a Cancer.
I'm
You're a
a
Capricorn,
Capricorn,
right?
yeah, I'm a
Yes.
Capricorn. I am, however, a Cancer rising.
Mm.
Yes, and a Taurus moon.
I did look at my big three, but I don't remember what they are. I know Gemini was one of them for sure.
Expected. All right, so today we're going to be getting into some questions that you guys submitted. Just to preface, there were over 30 questions submitted, so we will definitely not be answering all of those. I'm sure there will be a follow-up episode.
Yeah.
So I think today we're just going to tackle as many questions as we can without this being like a 3 hour long pod episode. So, getting into the first question, question number one. Are friendship breakups necessary or can we just go ghost?
I think this is a really good question because I think it is very circumstantial. I think that a lot of us have experienced either getting ghosted or ghosting somebody else, right? So, not a lot of people talk about this, I would actually say.
I don't think I've ever really heard anyone bring this up, but when I got this question from a friend of mine, my first instinct was we shouldn't ghost. Like I know most people are like, well, what's the purpose of like having a friend breakup? Like it's not a real relationship, but I actually really hate that perspective because personally, like, I've always thought friendships are just as valuable and equal to romantic relationships. They're not less than family relationships or less than romantic relationships. They're just different.
Yeah.
I think in our society, friendships are kind of underrepresented, they're understudied. It's not something that there's as much research or interest in. And I think it's just because we hyper focus so much on like family dynamics and then also romantic partnerships. And there's such a cultural lens of this hyperfixation with finding a romantic partner.
Yeah,
There's a lot of content, literature, things like that around romance.
totally.
And friendship is kind of like a background thing. And so in the context of are friendship breakups necessary or can we just ghost? I think some people might think like, no, we can just ghost.
Because it was never that serious as a
Right.
romantic relationship and that like feelings aren't hurt and things like that. But I feel like there's a lot of people who get upset when their friends go ghost or there's some kind of unresolved discussion or lack thereof, I should say,
Yeah.
to where people feel like they can't necessarily move forward.
For sure. And I think it's just always like the respectable choice, especially since like most friendships do tend to take place over a longer span of time. So you've like invested your time and effort into this person. Again, for me as like a female, a lot of my friendships tend to be really intimate. We get into a lot of deep conversations, processing traumas together. And I feel like if I've gotten to know you on such a personal level, it does feel really hurtful to just be left with no explanation.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Especially if you have that good connection. I think the whole ghosting thing can be circumstantial. I feel like for me, I wouldn't say friendship breakups are necessary, but I also wouldn't say that ghosting is the first option that you should do. I think you should definitely talk to your friend a little bit about, what the problem is. Let's say you have a friend, and this is something minimal. Let's say you have a friend who is constantly late to something. They can never show up on time. They're always texting that they're gonna either be late or maybe not even show. I think something like that is minute in the sense of, yeah, you can bring it up, see how they change if they do, or how they even respond to you. Not necessarily criticizing them, but just kind of saying, hey, this doesn't really work for me. And then go from there based off of, how many attempts you've made to make it better. Have they been receptive to the change or, listening to what you have to say? So I think it is very circumstantial, but at the end of the day, I don't think we should be ghosting anybody. I think it's more mature to at least talk it out, get that sense of closure, and just say your piece. Because you never know. Some people can be really open to it, and other people could just be like, you know what? You're right. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be your friend. I can't show up on time, or whatever the case is.
I think you bring up a really good point. Maybe a good example of this being a circumstantial situation is if you have a particular reason in mind that you don't want to be friends with this person anymore. Okay, so like we're using this you're always late example. Quality time is important to me, so you being late makes me feel unloved because now you're not respecting my quality time, like you're taking away from quality time. That really hurts me. So if this is the situation, right, where the issue is they're late, that's bothering you. So now you're questioning if you want to remain friends with this person and you're thinking, should I formally friend break up with this friend or should I just ghost? I think in that situation, it's important to ask yourself, is the reason that you want to leave this friendship something that you have already disclosed to the friend? Is it a conversation you've already had? So if you're thinking, hey, I don't really want to be friends with this person anymore because they're always late, and frankly, I feel like that's really disrespectful to me, you got to then follow up, ask yourself, have I explicitly told them that this bothers me? Have I brought up this issue?
Yeah.
And how did they respond? If you brought up the issue already and they responded by saying sorry and claimed that they would change their behavior but then didn't, I think it's more okay to kind of slowly ghost where, you've brought up the reason, you've brought up the issue, they chose not to take action and make a change with
Yeah.
that. And so now you're kind of like, okay, well,
What now?
I don't really want to continue putting effort into this if my expectations aren't being met and if my wishes aren't being respected. And so if you're like slowly backing out of that friendship and it kind of leads to like a mutual slow end, I feel like that's different than if you have a reason to end the friendship, but you've never actually vocalized that to the other person.
Definitely. And I think that a lot of people should think about the three chance rule, I would say. For me and my friendships personally, I like to give my friends three options or three chances to be able to make that change or compromise. I think after you kind of mention that three times, though, and they still don't make a change, it is probably best for you to kind of distance yourself because I don't think we can change a person, but I think that if they wanted to, they would. But I think three chances is a good amount of chances, basically, to
Yeah,
just
three
give
chances is
people.
plenty,
Yeah, I
honestly.
think so too. I mean, think of it as a genie, three wishes, right? I mean, the first time you didn't know, second time you're now more aware, third time you should get your shit together. And if not, I mean, like, there's other people who will, so gotta move on. And
Yeah, there's
friendships are so.
billions of people in this world. I'll find a new friend.
Exactly, and there's so many friends out there too. And I'm on TikTok. I don't know if you're on TikTok, but I always see people crying about how they don't have no friends. They're in their early 20s and blase blase. And there's so many people out there who want to make genuine connections, who want to be a good friend, but either they can't because of their mental health, or they're in a position where they feel like they can't meet anybody in their area who is, similar to age and hobbies and et cetera, that you find in a friend. Like they just don't mesh well. So I think give them the three chances. If they really can't change, it's time to either kind of fade out, like you said, or just tell them this is what it is. I don't want to move forward anymore and leave it at that. And I think their response to that is also going to show you too if, they do really want to be your friend or if they're just kind of like, okay, well, bye, and go from there.
Yeah, so true. I think it's really important to remember like not every person is meant to be in our life forever, and we're also just not compatible with everyone.
So true.
I'm a big stan of friendship and community. I'm constantly pushing the friend and community agenda forward. I think it's just such an important group of relationship that most people undervalue or don't put equal effort into. Like if I think about a lot of my friends or people that I've met over the years, the amount that they're giving to a romantic relationship or to family relationships is not generally equal to the amount they're giving to friendships. You know,
100%.
friendships are kind of on the back burner, and I'm a big advocate for if you want those kind of friendships that you are claiming to want, you are also going to have to put in the effort to make that friendship happen. But anyway, I feel like it's a little bit off track.
I don't
So
know, like we digress.
we digress. My point is, when it comes to this question, you know, is it okay to ghost or are friendship breakups necessary? I think 90% of the time, you should be opting for the friendship breakup. It is the respectable way to move out of someone's life. And, you
I
know,
mean, it really is circumstantial. I agree with you, though. I don't think that should be the first route that we take is to just ghost. I think we need to have that conversation. If you strip family connections and romantic connections away, the only thing you have left is friendship. But I think people, like you said, put that on the back burner. So definitely treat your friends right, talk to them about what's bothering you, make those changes, but also be sympathetic. You never know what people are going through, you don't know what their struggle is, but also don't feel like you're betraying yourself and your values just to make it work with that person. And remember, history is not quality. Just because you've known someone for a really long time, too, does not mean that you necessarily need to keep it pushing, keep that going if you're not happy.
so true. I'm on the side of yes, friendship breakups are necessary just because I think they provide closure and allow both people to move on. But I also think relationships are cyclical and sometimes seasonal can mean that maybe this is just a season of break, but you will circle back around to friendship later. And I think if you do break up with a friend, then it's easier to revisit that friendship in later years because you ended things on good terms.
Yeah, that's true.
You
A
know,
little rekindle. Both people
exactly.
grow, they change.
I just feel like it's the most mature, like healthy option. And a lot of times, if you're ending a friendship for a reason that's valid to you, chances are that information will be useful to the other person as well, because you will help them identify an area in which they can grow and you can help expose to them a place in their life or a behavior that they have that could be preventing them from having better friendships and being a better friend to other people. I think ultimately there's just more positives that come from a friendship breakup versus negatives. Obviously, like breakups are uncomfortable, and I think the only reason people avoid going through a friendship breakup is because they're afraid of confrontation and they don't want to have that conversation.
Yeah, it's so true.
But it's a cowardly way out.
I think so too. Definitely just buck up, have that conversation, say what's on your chest. And like you said, it helps the other person to be a better person too. Let's say if they did make mistakes or they do have toxic tendencies, they can work on that. Some people, they don't even have parents who tell them how to be good friends and et cetera, et cetera. So,
Right,
shit.
it's every relationship is a learning relationship, and ultimately, you're only going to be learning if the other person is willing to be a teacher and you're willing to be a student, and vice versa. And so, yeah, definitely sit through that friendship breakup.
You never know what's gonna happen. Maybe the friendship will thrive afterwards. Maybe you guys will stop being friends, but it's definitely worth the risk to have that conversation.
Even if it's just a text is better than nothing at all.
Word, word. Okay, well, on that note, I mean, I guess we're gonna filter into our second question now, which is, can a guy and a girl truly be just friends? Now, listen to that one more time, you guys. Can a guy and a girl truly be just friends? We're talking platonic, not romantic. Go.
I mean, everyone who knows me knows that I'm 100% on team yes. A guy and girl can absolutely be just friends. I think society often romanticizes male-female friendships and pushes this agenda of, oh, you're a guy and a girl, something has to happen, you have to end up together. And I very much disagree with that. I think it's entirely possible to have a platonic relationship without romantic or sexual undertones. And there's obviously like key factors that go into maintaining that, right? Some of those are mutual respect, obviously clear boundaries, open communication, things like that. But yes, I'm pro the guy girl friendship and actually like read a quote once that was so good by Hayao Miyazaki, the founder and director of Studio Ghibli, and
Ooh.
he talks about like guy girl relationships in movies
Yeah.
because obviously he's like a director, he's super famous, like he makes all these like films.
Yeah.
And the quote that he said was, I've become skeptical of the unwritten rule that just because a boy and a girl appear in the same feature, a romance must ensue. Rather, I want to portray a slightly different relationship, one where the two mutually inspire each other to live. If I'm able to, then perhaps I'll be closer to portraying a true expression of love. Hi, future Natalie here. I'm currently editing and I realized I didn't properly explain why I love this quote or elaborate on why I chose to drop it into the podcast and how it's relevant to the question, can a guy and girl truly be just friends? So I'm doing that now. Apologies in advance if there's audio inconsistency. I'm recording in a different location. So, in the quote by Hayao Miyazaki that you just heard, he, in essence, states that just because a guy and a girl are close does not automatically mean a romantic relationship must or will happen. Media often perpetuates the idea that men and women in close proximity are bound to become romantically entangled, but that's untrue. We are not bound to begin a romance with anyone. We have free will and we can freely choose friendship. Therefore, I believe it's entirely and truly possible for a heterosexual man and woman to be friends if they choose to be. Additionally, I find the predominant argument used against straight male and female friendship problematic. The most common argument being that romantic or sexual attraction will inevitably develop. The reason I find this argument problematic is multi-layered. Firstly, because it relies on the assumption that every straight female will be attracted to every straight male, and vice versa, which is not the case. We don't all find the same people attractive, and we don't all develop romantic feelings for the same person. Second, it implies that people don't have the capacity or emotional maturity to handle a relationship with any possibility of a crush, which I disagree with. Of course, not everyone is emotionally mature, but not everyone is emotionally immature either. In the case of male female friendships, even if one person does develop a crush on the other, they can choose to navigate that with emotional maturity by acknowledging their feelings but not acting on them, giving themselves a little space if necessary, and remembering what brought them together as friends in the first place. Besides, usually those feelings are fleeting, temporary, and short lived anyway, and often with just a little space, the person with the crush realizes that they actually prefer the other person as a friend and or that the friendship is more important, which allows them to move past their feelings like a mature adult and remain friends. And thirdly, this argument of in a straight male female friendship, romance or sexual feelings will always inevitably develop. It implies that the reason guy girl friendships are impossible is due to the possibility of attraction. And if the sheer possibility of attraction is the reason guys and girls can't be friends, then individuals who are bisexual or pansexual would have no or nearly no friends because, by the same logic, they wouldn't qualify for most friendships since technically the possibility of attraction or romantic feelings developing would always be there. It honestly all just seems so silly to me. Be friends with who you want to be friends with. As mentioned before, if you have clear boundaries and open communication, there really shouldn't be any major issues, regardless of the gender or sexual orientation of the people in the friendship. I just personally think you could be friends with anyone you choose to. So if you're a girl and want to be friends with a guy, okay. If you're a girl and only want to be friends with other girls, okay. Ultimately, just like everything else in your life, the choice of who you befriend is entirely yours. I'm just vocalizing my perspective because I enjoy normalizing friendships with all types of people because it's really difficult to find people in this life who really align with you. So if you meet someone who you get along with really well and who meets your friendship standards, I encourage you to keep an open mind. Try not to quickly dismiss them just because of their gender or sexual orientation. Last little addition here regarding the aforementioned Hayao Miyazaki quote. At the end of the quote, he states that if he's able to showcase a guy and a girl as just friends who inspire one another, he may be able to better portray true love. I go on to say that I agree with this because true love is uniquely evident in friendship, because friendship has a love that isn't bound by anything in particular, not in the same way that family or romance is bound. It is just love for love's sake. So I hope that this added explanation kind of clarified why I quoted this quote in the first place. But that's all I have for you. Okay, enough of that. Back to the original podcast recording. The quote that he said was, I've become skeptical of the unwritten rule that just because a boy and a girl appear in the same feature, a romance must ensue. Rather, I want to portray a slightly different relationship, one where the two mutually inspire each other to live. If I'm able to, then perhaps I'll be closer to portraying a true expression of love.
Definitely.
I really like that because I think it's so true. Like, I think the difference between friendship and a romantic relationship, and the reason that I think friendship is so underrated and deserves more hype, and it should be as hyped up as romantic relationships, is because the power that lies in a friendship is the fact that there's nothing holding you together the same way
Yeah.
as like family or romance, right? Like in family, you're held together with these people because you're related and you're family. It's a blood bond. You're held together that way.
Yeah.
In a romantic relationship, you're held together by sex or physical attraction or children or, like these romantic feelings, this appeal that you have towards this other person, maybe even subconscious conditioning of you needing this romantic partner.
That
But
is so true.
all of that doesn't exist in a friendship. Like, if you think about it, the reason friendship is so incredible is that you are literally just like you're choosing to live your life with this person simply because you enjoy each other's company.
Yes, and that's what I was just thinking about because I feel like friends, they accept you for your bad side and your good side, but they never, well, if you have a good friend, right? I mean, shitty friends will make you feel like shit, but if you have a good friend and they accept you for all your sides. You can authentically be yourself, which you may not even be authentically yourself with your partner. I think friendships have so much less pressure as well. And kind of going back into the topic of can a guy and a girl be best friends? I think absolutely. For me, in my case, since I am a gay man, pretty much most of my friends are all girls, and I think we have a tighter connection than I do with my potential romantic partners. Like, I feel like I could be more myself. I feel like we really get each other. But like you said, there's nothing that's holding you together besides the fact that You guys just mesh well, gel well, you guys like to spend time together. And I think friendships have to have in the male and female world, I think if you're mixing the two, like you mentioned, you have to have some kind of boundaries, clear standards of what this really is, because it can get blurred pretty easily. But I think that as long as you stick to your values, it's totally possible. And there's people out there with the same values as you. I mean, you've had definitely a lot of guy friends. I've had definitely a lot of girlfriends. I haven't had too many guy friends, but I think that there's always people that we click with and are able to kind of take it.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Obviously for you as a gay man, there is no question of can I be friends with girls because there is no attraction there for you
Right.
ever, right? So it's a little bit different. I'm curious how the dynamic works for you with guy friends. I know that you've had guy friends. What's that like for you? I think that would be the equivalent as me having guy friends, you having guy friends,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
What talk about that? What's that like?
Well, I've only had a couple guy friends in my lifetime. I've had two gay guy friends who we were genuinely just friends, and then I've had guy friends who are more like my homegirls' boyfriends, and we're kind of just friends, like I wouldn't say we go out to lunch and like hizzity hang and stuff, but I did go to a 2 hour drive with one of my friends' boyfriends to go meet up at a winery, and it was fine. Like we got to sit in the car and chill and talk about stuff. But I think that when it comes to me, it is a little bit more on that topic of can a guy and a girl be friends? Because if you have two gay men together, is can they be friends? There's always that underlying like, oh, like who wants to fuck, who wants to just be friends. So I think it is a little bit of a challenge. I myself find it easier to hang out with girls. I don't think that me and guys mesh too well. I also don't really see a straight man like wanting to kick it with a gay dude. Not because they're homophobic or anything, but it's also like one, we don't really have much to discuss. Two, like I'd rather have fun with my girls than with another man. But if I'm talking to another gay man and we're out at lunch, like it could be a lot of fun. It could be tea, but I don't know. It's definitely like a gray area for me still. I don't think I'm super open to the idea of having same-sex friends because I think for me and just who I am, it's always been so much easier to hang out with girls. I mean, you've known me growing up. I've always had some best friends, and parents would always be like, "Well, when are you gonna bring guys over? Like, what, do you have any guy friends?" No, because they're boring. Like, I just think girls are more fun.
I do love me a girlfriend. I think I do have a lot of fun with my girls. But like you said, I feel like I was a tomboy growing up. I did a lot of sports and I just got along well with guys.
Yeah.
And I don't think that changed much. I still have good guy friends and we have a great time together and it's never been weird and it never crossed boundaries.
Yeah.
And I think that's just the key component. Like you can absolutely have a healthy platonic friendship with a man if you are a straight woman, as long as there's clear boundaries in place, and open communication as well. If you're being open about what's happening, if you're honest, especially if you have like mutuals and you hang out a lot in group settings, there's no need for it to be weird.
No, that's so true, especially of mutuals and group settings. I think that's a really great way to also alleviate that pressure, maybe if you are in a friendship and you kind of feel that way. But also, I think you have to remember, even if you're a guy and a girl or a guy, whatever, and you guys are friends, I think you'd know from the beginning if you kind of like that person a little bit more than a friend versus, oh, like we're just friends? So I think that also can kind of dictate how you would move forward in that relationship, whether you do think you can put your romantic feelings aside and be just friends, or shit, maybe there isn't any romantic feeling at all, and therefore you can thrive. So I think that's also another thing is like, how did you guys meet? Do you guys have mutual friends? What kind of values you hold?
Right. I mean, for me, right, like obviously I spend a lot of time at the church. I work in the junior high ministry and there's leaders of all genders there. And I see it all the time, guys and girls hanging out together and being friends. And there is no underlying sexual tension or romantic interest. It's just, hey, we met through work, we met through volunteering, we jive as individuals, we're gonna have a friendship.
Exactly.
And I think those relationships are successful because there is clear boundaries, there is clear and open communication, and it's on the table of, hey, I've never been interested in you. You're not interested in me. We just want a friendship. And I think at the end of the day, if you're in agreement about what you want out of the relationship, if you're in agreement that we both just want this to be a friendship, then there's no reason for it to be unsuccessful. I think
Yeah.
ultimately the success of a platonic friendship depends on the individuals involved and their ability to navigate emotional maturity.
It's so true. It's all about emotional maturity and emotional intelligence. And I also think that, we're all people, okay? Regardless of man or woman, we're all people. We have feelings. Take away the sex, take away the romantics. Do you like this person as a person? If so, continue being their friend, keep it cool. If, you think otherwise, then I don't know. I don't think that it's possible if one of them does have feelings. I think it has to be neutral on both parties. Otherwise, there's going to be some kind of tug and pull, but I think it's possible.
Yeah, I think it is possible.
Well, I mean, for me right now, I guess you could say I do have one gay guy friend, and it's genuinely just being friends, but it's not something I see often in my life at all. I once went out on a date, and some guy told me I was weird because I didn't have any gay friends, that all my friends were just like girls, and I'm like, well, I don't feel like I need to. Like I'm friends with who I feel like I click with. I don't think, oh, I need to be friends with XYZ because of this and that. You know what I mean?
I understand not intentionally making those friendships. My question is, do you intentionally avoid those friendships? So you said, you only have one gay guy friend at the moment, and you predominantly only have girlfriends because you feel like those are the people you vibe with, and you feel like you don't need to have gay guy friends. But do you not have them because you don't really vibe with them, or is it because you purposely avoid creating those friendships because you don't think that they should belong?
Yeah, that's actually a really, really good question. I never thought of it that way. I, for myself, kind of feel a little bit on the outskirts of the gay community. I see a lot of gays being friends with each other and like they support each other and stuff like that, but I've never had success or luck with that kind of group. I think it all comes down to, like you said, boundaries, values, but also I don't go out very much. We are on the outskirts of LA. I don't go to West Hollywood as often. I don't hang out in a lot of LGBTQ spaces for me to be able to even have the opportunity to kind of get that going. But I think I would probably have to do a little bit more self-reflection on that to see if it's something I just am not interested in, or if it's something that just really hasn't circumstantially happened to me to just be in that situation.
Right. I think there is a difference between it circumstantially happening versus you pursuing it versus you avoiding it, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm very much on the train of circumstantial. If I meet someone and we jive well, maybe we're coworkers, maybe we're in a class together, and we just shoot the shit, we get along great, and we become friends,
Yeah,
then cool. Then, like, now I have a new friend. Am I intentionally going out there and trying to find guy friends? Never.
right.
But if it circumstantially happens, I'm not shutting it off just because they're a guy. I'm not like, whoa, I can't be friends with you because you're a man. I've never been on that board,
It's true, it's true.
And so I think it's to me circumstantial. But I do know people, and there are people in my life who will purposely avoid it or think it's not possible for a guy and a girl to successfully be friends, And so they will, even if it circumstantially comes about, maybe, they have a coworker or, they have a class where there is the opposite gender or same sex gender that you're attracted to, and you guys happen to get along well, they will still refuse to talk to that person or refuse to maintain a friendship with that person because it disrespects their value system
Yeah.
or they think it's not possible. But I think this is the other thing, what you decide is and isn't possible is going to dictate your life, right? It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy or a limiting belief that you're placing on yourself.
It totally is. It
If
really
you're
is.
constantly putting out there into the world, it's not possible for a straight man and a straight woman to be friends. It's not possible for a straight man and a straight woman to be friends. Then all you're going to see is that not being possible because confirmation bias, things like that, you're just going to draw into your circle, into your sphere, more proof that that's not possible. Whereas me, I think, hey, it is possible. I have friends who, have shown me that it's possible. Our parents have shown us that it's possible. Our parents are celebrating their like 29th anniversary of marriage. So they've been together for
Yeah.
over 30 years now, but they've been married for 29.
Incredible.
Their anniversary is on the 18th of August. So,
It's coming up
just
in a couple days,
yeah,
actually.
just from a little bit after we record this podcast. And they both have very successful guy girl friendships, and it's never caused issues in their life, in their marriage, anywhere. And so, we've grown up with the example that it is absolutely possible. And so I never had the limiting belief instilled in me that, oh no, that's not okay or that's not possible because I saw it exampled in front of me that it was,
Yeah, so true.
you
That
know?
is true. I think that there's just the possibility for that without it getting complicated.
Yeah. And again, it all just comes down to if you have clear boundaries with those people and if you communicate well and openly, then absolutely you can make that happen.
Exactly, I agree.
Next question we have, how do you tell your friend that you're upset with them slash that they hurt your feelings?
Ooh, I'm about to get into this one for sure because I feel like I've been dealing with this shit kind of recently.
All right, so how would you tell your friend that you're upset with them slash that they hurt your feelings?
Well, usually I'll just send my friend a text. I'm really not here to sit in person and be confrontational. I just feel like I'll start off with a simple text. I'll say, I think that this and this that you did was a little rude, or you said this and I didn't like that. I think my friends hurt my feelings a lot because I'll throw events, nobody shows up. I'll, try to make plans with them, hit them up first. They never hit me up first. And it just kind of almost seems like different expectations and values of what friendships entail and hold. And I've had so many friends that I've cut off in the year of 2024, even 2023, who what we were talking about earlier, I did not have a friendship breakup with them. I just ghosted them. I called it quits. But also, it's not like it was even ghosting them because it's not like they reached out to me. Nobody was wondering what I've been up to, what I've been doing, how I've been feeling. They don't care. So I think that it's very important for me and my lifestyle now moving forward is to tell my friends that they hurt my feelings, that they need to do better, and go from there because I think after a while, you start to kind of feel shitty about yourself. They make you hate yourself. They make you kind of doubt, like, do people even want to be around me, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't think at the
They
end of
dull your sparkle.
exactly, they dull your sparkle. And I think, like, no one should be dulling your sparkle, especially your friends. You know what I mean?
Amen.
Like your friends are supposed to be there to like help you out. They're supposed to uplift you. I literally threw a beach bash for my birthday slash beginning of summer, and I invited like 70 people. Literally only two people came. And prior to the event, I went out to dinner with two of my friends, and one of them mentioned that she's not coming because she doesn't like the other people that I talk to, which I understand, but also just show up to the fucking event. Like, no one's making you talk to them, no one's making you socialize. But the tea was that she didn't come, but no one else came to the event besides the two other people who she is friends with. So it would have been fine to begin with. So I think these things need to be said.
I feel that. Obviously, here's the difference between me and you. I am a heavily confrontational person. I think if someone hurts my feelings or upsets me, I will be bringing it up. I will be fully having a deep, in-depth conversation about it. Because at the end of the day, like I value friendships where there is a call out culture. I
Yeah,
want my friends to call me out when I do something wrong, when I hurt their feelings, when I'm not living up to the expectations that they have of a friend. And because I desire that, I also give that.
yeah.
And the very best friendships I have are ones where we can hold each other accountable and help ourselves meet this sort of greater standard for our own individual selves and just be that better friend.
It's true.
That's not going to be happening if you're afraid to speak up. And I think maybe hot take, I don't know. I feel like low key, high key, I don't know. I think when you hold back from addressing that a friend of yours has upset you, you're actually preventing them from being the friend that they could be. You know, it's almost like you're boxing them into a bad friend
Yeah.
because you're not giving them the opportunity to step up.
And you yourself aren't getting what you feel like you need from your friendship.
Right, you're almost sabotaging that person and yourself and ruining the relationship by not speaking up. Here's the thing. A lot of people are afraid that being direct and straightforward with people in their life might damage the relationship with the person that they're being direct towards, but they're not pausing to consider that it's already damaging that they're in a relationship that's not fully authentic or honest.
Yeah.
If you're holding back and you're not bringing up things that hurt you along the way, you're not giving the other person and your relationship the opportunity to blossom into its full capacity.
It's true. I mean, all you need is communication to really talk about it, what's bothering you, make that change. I want to put in a little bit of my own personal experience, and I think I've grown a lot from this situation. It's been about a year since this has happened, but I think it's really relevant to what we're talking about. I had a friend and we were really close. We were pretty tight. We'd text every day. We'd hang out once a week. She did live a little bit further, so I did have to drive out, which I never like minded. But I was on vacation. I was in Tokyo, Japan. Hey, it was fun. But anyway, I got a text and it was from my friend, and she was really upset that I reached out to her roommate. Okay. And this roommate, like, she's hung out with us a bunch. She has gone to dinner with us, gone to the club. Like, she's always around. You know what I mean? And then my friend was going through like a hard time. Her grandma passed away. She was getting in a new relationship, and just things were kind of rocky on her end. But I felt like we weren't as tight as we once were. So I was walking home from the bar in Japan like late at night, and I was trying to call somebody to have someone to talk with on my walk. So I decided to call my friend's roommate, right? And we're all friends. Like, what's the big deal? Next thing you know, the friend didn't pick up, so like whatever. I get back to my hotel, blase blase. Next day, my friend texted me this whole paragraph about how she's so unhappy that her roommate, that I reached out to her roommate, and that she felt like her roommate was trying to seduce her boyfriend and just kind of copy everything that she does. And I just kind of felt like rubbed the wrong way because I was like, well, first of all, you know, I wouldn't be reaching out to your roommate and have any kind of ill will on you. But also, you're over here giving me the impression that we're really tight with your roommate and that she's a cool girl and that you like her. If you don't fucking like her, why is she always at dinner? Why is she at the club? Why is she in our hangouts? You could easily tell her, hey, you know, I'm hanging out with my friends tonight. I want to keep this a separate event and leave it at that. So then after I got that message, I was like, you know, your message came off rude. I don't really appreciate that you would think that me reaching out to your roommate has any kind of evil spirits or whatever. You know, I'm not trying to do bad juju on nobody. I was just calling the homegirl to talk. And then
You're
so,
like, first of all, why does your beef with your roommate trying to snatch your boyfriend have anything to do with me?
right, like, what does that have to do with me? And also, like, if you don't fucking like her, like, why is she always there? So then I feel like now looking back on it, I could have been a little bit more sympathetic and said, I understand this is where you're coming from, blase, blase. And she was pretty nice about it. Like, she did send this message about how sorry she was. But for me and the place that I was in, I was just so turned off because I would never do that to my friend, Like, I would never text them and be like, why did you reach out to my roommate and say this and this? First of all, she didn't even pick up the phone. It's not like we were even chatting or anything. But I think kind of ties back into what we were saying. Like these friendships, I think, have a lot to do with how you communicate with one another and what
Oh,
kind
for
of
sure.
expectation you have.
I think in this situation, right, she could have handled it more tactfully, maybe like slept on the situation and made it more specific to your relationship and not brought in outside insecurities that had nothing to do with your actual relationship, right? And this is the thing, when we're talking about the question, how do you tell your friend that you're upset with them slash that they hurt you or your feelings? The first thing you need to do is you need to consider your motivation. You need to reflect on why you feel the need to bring this up and ensure that your intentions are constructive and aimed at helping your friend grow rather than just pointing out their faults.
Yeah,
And then, two, you need to choose the right moment. Take a little bit of space, reflect on the situation, figure out, hey, why was I so bothered by this behavior? And then choose the right moment to bring it up.
yeah,
So, in your situation of what you just said, it would have been better for your friend to say, hey, why did it bother me so much that Marek reached out to my roommate? Why did that bother me? And then she could have self assessed and said, hey, it bothered me because I feel like my roommate is trying to steal my boyfriend. And now Marek is reaching out to her, and I feel like she's also stealing him away too.
yeah,
Now I'm feeling triggered. Now I'm feeling insecure. And if she had reflected, realized that, and then brought it to your attention and said, hey, Marek, you hurt my feelings when you called my roommate because she's been
XYZ.
doing this,
Yeah,
it's been triggering me. And then when you reached out to her, it further propelled my insecurity. Now I'm feeling more triggered. Can we talk about it? And I think if she had brought it up to you in that way, like, would you have been rubbed the wrong way? Would you have been mad?
no, I would have literally been like so apologetic. Didn't know that like that was the case. I mean, I had no idea that she was trying to steal her man. You know what I mean? Like if I knew that, I would have been like, well, why are we even rooming with her, right? But I think like if she had come at me in a sense that was more like understanding and trying to figure out like what the situation was, that would have been better. I myself felt like my relationship was on the back burner with her new man, so I reached out to the roommate. I also understand her grandma passed away and she might have been depressed, but you were out with other people. So it's not like you can really be like, oh, well, I'm so sad, I can't text you, but you're out and about with other people. So I think if she had just handled it a little bit differently, I would have been like, okay, more understanding. I also think that maybe if we had called and actually got to chat it out, like I don't think texting is really like the vibe when it comes to something like that, where it's a little bit bigger than just saying, "Oh, you were fucking late and it bothers me." So, I don't know.
No, for sure, for sure. I think as as in person as the conversation can be is the best way to tell your friend that you're upset with them.
Yeah.
So obviously if you're at a distance and there's just no way for you guys to physically get together, make it a FaceTime. Make it something where you can see the other person.
So then now my question is, give our audience an idea of what it is looking like to reach out to the friend who hurt you, or how do you tell someone that they hurt you? What do you think are some of the best ways to communicate that?
Well, for me, I would always initiate a hangout or a phone call with little to no context personally, because I don't want the person to be on the defense,
Mm,
So something that I would do or say is if this person is someone who lives close by, we can meet up in person. I would text them and say, hey, like, are you free to grab a coffee? Can we get together? And once we get to coffee, then start the conversation.
yeah,
If they're at a distance, similar vibes would be like, hey, like, are you free to FaceTime on Tuesday or, whenever I want to have this conversation and then get into that,
yeah,
and then basically once I'm there, once I'm in a situation where I'm face to face or FaceTime to FaceTime with my friend, then I would bring up this conversation, right? Before I even have the conversation, though, I would do what I just previously stated. I would consider my motivation. Why am I even bringing this up? Why did this bother me so much? I want to journal, I want to self reflect, and I want to assess why is this even a problem for me? Because I think it's important to realize sometimes something upset us or hurt us because of a deeper wound that we have yet to heal that doesn't necessarily have much to do with whether this friend is a good friend or a bad friend or with our friendship in general.
Yeah.
So do some self reflection prior, but then your question was, how would I address it? So I'd set a date and a time to have this conversation. Then once I'm there, I would be tactful and direct.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Just
I
bring up
would,
some of those topics that bother you in kind of bullet
yeah,
point form.
I would approach the topic gently but clearly and not beat around the bush. I want to start off concisely with something simple like, I've been thinking about X situation and I felt like it was important to share it with you because I want our friendship to last. And I don't want this to build up resentment. Are you open to listening to what I have to say? And then after that, I would use specific examples where I can point out the specific action and why it bothered me, really explain the reasoning behind why that was an issue for me personally, and then encourage dialogue, like invite my friend to contribute to the conversation. This is meant to be a two-way street. I want them to be able to express their side of things, and I want to make that clear in the conversation when I'm bringing it up. And then, really, I think most importantly, focus on the behavior and not the person. So, when you're having this conversation, just to make it clear that you're addressing the action and not attacking the character of the person.
Yeah.
If you thought they were a bad person, if you thought they were toxic, there's a really good chance you wouldn't be friends with them at all.
Yeah.
So, in a situation where they've done something to upset you or hurt you, you need to remember it was most likely unintentional, it was most likely an accident. And so, you kind of want to word it in a way where you're focusing on the behavior or the action that they took that hurt you and not on them as a person.
Exactly. And I think I was gonna say, you should go into it with sympathetic vibes. I don't think you need to come at the person super defensive because they're gonna be defensive. I mean, nobody likes to get criticized, but I think that if you do it in a way that shows love and shows intent, I think it can be very good. I think you made a good point with, reaching out to them, scheduling a little hangout, and honestly doing this in person. I think that the tone of your voice has a lot to do with how things are carried and delivered. I also think that you're able to see people's body language. Are they receptive to what you're saying? Maybe also, too, I think some people may have a little bit of fear in them when it comes to confrontation, fear of abandonment, maybe fear of, I don't know, the relationship crumbling, but I think it's definitely important to have that in order to make it stronger.
Right. And I think the other thing is if you're so afraid of having a conversation with your friend about something that upset you, maybe that's not the right friendship for you to be in.
Yeah,
You shouldn't be afraid to bring up your grievance with a good friend. And that friend should be a good enough friend to hear you out. And if that friendship is meant to be a part of your life, if they really do love and care about you, they will hear you out with an open heart and do their best to create a behavior change so that doesn't repeat itself.
and I think this podcast definitely opens up my eyes for my personal lifestyle too, because maybe I could have been more sympathetic towards my friend who said that she felt like I reached out to her roommate unwarranted. But I also think, like, at the end of the day, you got to stay true to who you are, listen to what the other people say, and come to a good conclusion. Like you said, I mean, if you don't feel comfortable bringing something up with somebody, they're probably not your person. Your best friend, your homegirl, homeboy, whoever it is, you should be able to tell them whatever it is that's on your mind, and they're going to understand, hear you. But also, if people lash out, and they are doing something that's even crazier than you thought after the conversation, either they're extra hurt about XYZ or they have underlying issues, or you really do got to move on and kind of get away from that person because it's, not something that you want to be around. You want to be around someone who's perceptive and receptive to what you're saying.
Totally. Next question.
How do you grapple with feelings of loneliness in adulthood as your friendships start to shift and evolve due to changes such as marriage, kids, demanding jobs, things like that?
I mean, what are your thoughts?
I think the biggest thing is you really have to find your own happiness with your own hobbies and spending time alone. I think a lot of the times when people do have kids or a demanding job, they don't, those people barely have times for themselves. You know what I mean? Like, I know so many young moms and they don't do their hair, they don't do their makeup simply because they just don't have the time. They can't, they don't have the energy. And those are little things too. So if, they feel like they don't even have enough time to wipe their ass, then what makes you think that they have enough time to hang out with you every day or text you constantly, right? So I think you need to kind of adapt and shift when big things like that do change. I myself, I've had some experience with people having kids, getting married, etc., etc. And I think it is such a big change for us, not for them. Because for them, they have the constant communication with their partner. They don't feel lonely. They already have their life set. But I think if it's something new, most of the time the friends are the one who has the big change. Your friend is getting married, but you're the one who's on the outskirts. So it's kind of like an adjustment to your lifestyle almost. I had a friend who I was really, really close with for about 3 years. We hung out almost every single day, almost every single, and I've known this chick since I was 6 years old. And then, she gets a man and things are completely different. I've had to change my whole lifestyle because clearly she didn't have the time. So I think biggest thing is really finding out what you like to do, who you are, and bask in your own awesomeness.
I agree with that. I think one of the biggest things when it comes to the question of how do you grapple with feelings of loneliness in adulthood as friendships start to shift and evolve due to life changes is to embrace the new dynamics.
Yeah,
Honestly, understand that life changes, period. And then friendships will change because of that. Friendships will naturally shift because of that. And so will really all other relationships. It's just part of life. Change is the only constant. We've all heard that. So rather than resisting these changes, trying to embrace the new dynamic, accept that friends may have less time, like you said, due to responsibilities and other things, but that doesn't mean that the friendship is any less meaningful. You can still have a fulfilling, meaningful friendship. It just might need to adapt, and it most likely will look differently. I think a big thing for me as someone who values quality time is to focus on quality over quantity. So,
right.
like you said, you and this girl used to hang out every single day, right? You guys were super close, you were best friends, you did everything together. And I think for most people, we've had that experience with someone. Maybe it was when you were in junior high or high school, maybe you were in a team sport and you saw that friend constantly. And now you're older, things have changed, and you just don't have that day to day contact anymore. I think something that's been really helpful for me is to switch from quantity over quality. I don't know if that's like, I don't think I worded that correctly. But just, my point is, you used to have quantity, you used to be together a lot,
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean that the friendship is any lesser because now you have less time together. You can just shift your perspective to focusing more on quality. So, as you move through different life stages, it's common to have fewer close friends, and also it's common to have less time to dedicate to friends. So, instead of worrying so much about hey, like now I don't have as much time, or my friends don't have as much time for me, like that feels really isolating. That feels really lonely. Focus on deepening the connection you do have and really figure out ways for your limited time together to be really fulfilling.
Yeah, and maximize the little amount of time that you have together.
No, totally.
I want to say that another big thing into your friendships when the big things do occur is to be a support pillar. And now, what I mean by that is to be there for your friend in their time of change too. I know I did say earlier that for them, it doesn't change much when it comes to communication, friendships, loneliness, blah, blah, blah. But for us, it does. But let's say if your friend is getting married, maybe they are pregnant, but they're not going to deliver until after the wedding. Maybe we need to be more supportive. Maybe we need to say, hey, how can I help you with your wedding to make it less stressful for you? Hey, is there anything I can bring over to you tonight that might make your day easier? And I think maybe if we were more supportive of our friends who are in those big changes rather than taking it personally, they might feel the alleviate, how would I say? There wouldn't be so much pressure on them to do
They feel
XYZ.
alleviated.
Yes, they
Yeah,
feel alleviated. They feel better when you help them. And then when you help them, instead of them stressing about that problem, they can give that time to you and have a nice exchange that's fulfilling to both parties, meaningful. I don't think that we need to change our friendships based off of where the relationship is at in the sense of life changes because we all go through life changes. Like you said, the only thing that's promised is constant change. Now, I think that if we are big supporters and put our ego aside, that will help. But I think to only an extent. I don't think you could be a support pillar forever without still feeling like you're not getting enough. You need to be a support pillar and feel like you're getting that in return, even if it may look a little bit different than what it did before. You know what I mean?
definitely. I think the other thing is when it comes to grappling with feelings of loneliness, as you grow into adulthood and your friendships start to shift, is to expand your social circle as best as you can. While it's important to maintain existing friendships, it can also be beneficial to expand your social circle. And I know this kind of touches into like how to make friends in your 20s or like how to make friends as an adult. And I know there's a lot of content on this that gives really good advice, but there's a lot of content on this because people are lonely and this is a big struggle. So do your best to put yourself out there. Join clubs, attend community events, take up new hobbies where you can meet people with similar interests. Building new connections can help alleviate those feelings of loneliness. I'm a big advocate for Bumble BFF. Shout out to Bumble BFF.
Please sponsor us.
And
I
you've had
mean,
some good success on
I've
Bumble
had
BFF.
great success on Bumble BFF. Shout out to the multiple girlfriends that I have from Bumble BFF going strong. Miriam and I are like five years deep,
Yeah.
like into our friendship. We met on Bumble and it's it's so crazy because I remember like one of the first times we ever hung out, she invited me to a bonfire with a bunch of her existing friends. And so this is like another way, sometimes like you meet a person and then through them you make other friends and you expand your circle that way. But I remember she invited me to this bonfire and I show up and people were like, "Oh, like how did you guys meet?" And she's like, "Oh, on Bumble." And they're like, "Oh, we didn't know that you were gay."
And it's like, well, I'm not, but
It's like actually it's for BFFs, like it's to make friends. And
I think Bumble BFF works so good for straight people.
it
If
does.
you're a gay person, like Bumble BFF is not the move because it's basically back to a dating app. You know, you're just seeing the same sex and the same interests. So it's like, well, but for girls who are straight or for guys who are straight and
I actually
looking
will
for
say
friends, like
no. I'm
for
sorry.
guys, no.
No, like men have zero success with Bumble BFF.
I believe it. I
I've
believe
seen a
it.
few men on
Well,
Bumble
because they only
BFF.
match you with other guys, right? As a guy, you
No,
can't
like
match with this
you can match
opposite
with
sex.
women,
Oh,
but
can you?
yes, okay, and then this goes back to the point of we're talking about, like can guys and girls be friends, like whatever, right? I'm on Bumble BFF, and if I'm scrolling through Bumble BFF and a guy comes up on my feed, I don't even look at his profile. It is an immediate swipe no.
Yeah,
And it's not because I'm opposed, it's because that would be me going out of my way to establish a friendship with a man.
yeah,
And the thing is, I'm all for having friends with men when they come organically or like kind of fall
But this
into
is
your
like an
life.
app where you're
But
kind
this is
of,
an app where I am purposely seeking friendships, and I will not purposely seek a friendship with a guy who's on an app that is literally like 99% girls. Like for me, that's kind of a red flag. Like, why are you
well,
on there?
also they had to change their sex from male to female to be in that category. So it's also kind of red flag. Like, what is it that you're doing on here trying to be BFFs with everybody? Quote unquote BFFs, right?
Right. It just gives me like weird vibes. I'm not
Yeah.
into it, and but I do think like Bumble BFF is a move. Obviously, if you're a man, you're just gonna have to put yourself out there a little bit more.
Yeah.
Doing those hobbies, doing things like that. I think the other thing is when it comes to feelings of loneliness in your friendships that are already existing, is to use technology to your advantage.
Yes. So much yes. And I have
Yes,
something to say about that once you finish.
go for it.
Well, I just wanted to say Facebook groups is such an amazing place to meet people in specific niche categories. I joined a couple groups on Facebook. I joined Find a Travel Buddy. It's basically people from all around the world who post a couple of pictures of themselves. They say a little bio, my name is blah, blah, blah. I'm this years old. I live here, but I'm looking to travel to blase, blase on this date and this date. I would love for people to meet up with me. I like this and that. I'm in that Facebook group, and there's so many good options there who you can meet.
And you did.
And
You
you,
literally just met up with the guys that you met at the music festival that you went to
exactly,
in Croatia.
exactly. So this summer, I went to a Croatian music festival. I met some people there. They were visiting LA. I came out, saw them. We had such a fun time. And then you could just build connections that way. And I don't even see these people every day, but I consider them to be such great friends because we had such an amazing ambiance, connection, and vibe. So Facebook groups is a really good one. I think that's a great place where you can utilize technology without it kind of feeling like a dating app. You don't have so much pressure on like, oh my God, we're gonna date. Like no one's saying that. We're just saying, I joined a Facebook tennis group. Let's go play tennis on a weekend and see who's there.
Yeah.
So I think there are things. Now, for the people who are shy, this might not be for you, but you also need to realize you need to fucking bite the bullet, not be shy, talk to people, because if you wait for others to reach out to you, if you wait for others to make the first move, most likely they're not going to because they have the same mentality as, oh, I'm too shy, I'm blase blase. So just be bold, be confident, make that first move. And there's so many people out there who want to be your friend who you don't even know yet. And expand your circle. They don't have to be your vibe, but they
Yes,
can be.
absolutely. I think too, like for this point of staying connected with technology, doesn't even have to be for you to expand your circle or like meet new people like we've been mentioning. It could also be using technology to connect with the friends that you already have, right? My friends and I are really big into voice memos, and we'll just send like long voice memos and voice updates. And it's great because instead of listening to my morning podcast, when I get in the car to drive to my doctor's appointment or wherever I'm headed that day, I can listen to those voice memos and feel like, I'm catching up with a friend, and it's a nice way to feel included. I literally, even one time, I found this YouTuber, and she literally started a whole YouTube channel just for her long distance friendships. Like she started making videos about her life just to keep in touch so that they can watch it in their spare time and they would feel connected in what she's doing. And I was like, damn, that's an extra mile that I don't know, like most
Yeah.
people would not go. But I'll make quick videos here and there, like just on my phone and send it to my friends, leave voice memos like here and there, try to stay connected that way. I have a book club on Fable
Book
with
club is
with my
great.
friends, and just another way to stay connected, using those group chats, like just doing your best, using those Instagram memes as a means of staying connected.
So true. I mean, just send a fun little meme, make them laugh, crack them up. Another thing too, I mean, you mentioned book club. There's so many celebrities now who have book clubs. Like OMG, Reese Witherspoon. The girl with the abs, Emily Rakovic, what's her last name? Something like that. Emily Ratajkowski, there we go. She has a book club, I believe. I believe the girl from 50 Shades of Grey has a book club. Like, book clubs are so big now, and Elena just told me she just joined a book club as well. I'm watching American Horror Story season Delicate with Kim Kardashian and Emma Roberts, and it's actually based off a book as well.
Oh,
It's based off a book too, but I think back to what you were saying with audio recordings, love that feature. Such a good way to keep in touch with your friends, and also you don't have to text everything out. Just quickly say what you need to say. So much more emotion, so much more connectivity, quick and easy to listen to. It's seriously a great means to be in touch.
absolutely. And then I don't want to forget in this question that we're addressing, how to grapple with feelings of loneliness in adulthood as your friendships start to shift and evolve due to life changes. It's important in these moments to also invest in yourself.
Yes.
Use this time to focus on self growth and self care. Explore interests or hobbies that you may have neglected or, forgotten about because you were booked and busy with school, booked and busy with friends. It's a great time to return to things that maybe you used to be really passionate about and kind of put on the back burner because your life started shifting into adulthood and you also got busy.
Yeah.
Now, try to invest in yourself, really return to those things. When you're content with yourself, you're more likely to attract and maintain positive relationships. And, I know it's really tempting to fill the void of a friendship with another friend or just sit in those despairing feelings of loneliness. But investing in yourself could be a really wonderful and healthy coping mechanism to those feelings of loneliness because you're growing with yourself. So, worst case scenario, you develop into a better person.
Right. Like, that's the worst case
Worst case
scenario.
scenario, best case scenario, you find other people who are into the same hobby that you're into. You make new friends, you expand your community, and now you have a wider array of friends that you can hang out with. So if one friend is busy, it's okay because there's another friend for you to do something with.
Yeah.
And it's really like a win-win situation to invest in yourself in these scenarios.
And then let's say too, if another best case scenario is maybe you took up ceramics as a hobby, you start to really love ceramics, you develop your talent. Next thing you know, it turns into an amazing career. And it opens so many different doors for you because you did that self-reflection. Moral of the story is be a support pillar for those friends and get a fucking hobby and just
Amen.
seriously be booked and busy on your own time. Because at the end of the day, everyone else is going to be booked and busy on their own time too. So it's like, what's the difference? The only difference is that we feel like we're neglected and we feel like we can put in more time for our friends. Well, get a hobby, like I said, and then it'll even out, I think, as time goes.
I think the last thing I want to add to this super quick before we close out this question is loneliness in adulthood is super common and it is literally an epidemic. I'm pretty sure in the UK they published like articles and made it like a national security concern issue. I know I'm not labeling that correctly, but it was a big thing out there. The point is, it's very normal. And in these situations, I think something that's not talked about enough is being proactive. So many times people are like, well, they haven't reached out to me. I'm always reaching out to them. I don't want to keep reaching out to them. They must not want to be friends with me.
Yeah,
And you stop being proactive
yeah,
without having a conversation with that friend about the fact that maybe they're not reaching out or acknowledging that you guys might be in a different phase of life. If I'm not married, if I don't have kids, if I don't live that life, but my friend is married, my friend has kids, it's really important for me to show empathy and understand. She might not be reaching out to me as much as I'm reaching out to her because she's in a different phase of life where there is so much overwhelm that even if she thinks about me, she doesn't reach out, and I don't need to be projecting issues and insecurities of this person must not want to be my friend. I must not be interesting to them. They must not care about me because they're not reaching out to me. I should just get over myself and be proactive. If I don't want to be lonely, I need to put myself out there.
Amen to that, sister. And it's also, it's not always personal.
It's not.
It's really not always personal, but I think we'll wrap it up on this question. We'll head to the next one and go from there.
The next question is, how do you handle friendships that may have changed by a romantic occurrence, like one person admitting feelings for the other? So, to rephrase the question, let's say you're friends with someone and that person tells you, "Hey, so I have feelings for you." What do you do then? Can the friendship continue? How do you handle that situation? What's the vibe? What's the move?
It's really, really tea. Like, that's a good question. Have you had this experience before?
Yes, both ways, where I had feelings for someone, I admitted my feelings, and they were like, no, girl, no. The answer is no.
Right.
And vice versa, where I had a friend admit feelings for me, and I was like, yeah, I don't see it like that, and I'm
Yeah.
not interested. So sorry.
I would say for me, I've definitely had both, but one of them didn't really count because it's like when they're telling me that they like me, it wasn't really like valid. That was like a long time ago. And it was a girl telling me that she liked me. So I was like, well, what now?
You're like, well, I'm still gay.
Right. I'm like, well, what now? Like, you know what I mean? So I think everyone handles that differently. I want to start with my personal experience where I had a gay friend and him and we were such good friends. I mean, we would go to club, we would match, like we'd have the same shoes, different style top, but it was the same cut and whatever. We had a lot of fun and it was purely platonic. But as we started hanging out more, I was like, damn, like I really like this guy. He's like everything I kind of envisioned for myself right now. Mind you, this is like 2018. I was 18 years old. What did I know? But then I texted him one day and I was like, "Hey, I like you like more than a friend, you know?" And he texted me, he was like, "Well, I'm gay." And I was like, "Well, bitch, we both know that. Like, what do you like, you know, he was trying to play it off like, "Oh, well, I'm gay." Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you're like, we're both gay.
Yeah, like, what do you mean? But I'm gay. Like, anyway, it was fucking weird. So then, like, I don't know. After that, we just never discussed it. Like, in my case, we never discussed it. And then eventually I kind of stopped reaching out and vice versa because, like, I don't know. He didn't want to discuss it. I didn't want to continue being his friend because I liked him. So I was like, well, what now? So I think
Okay,
it
so
really
you
depends on.
chose to end the friendship because you didn't want to be friends with someone and you didn't want to get over your feelings.
Yes, because I knew if I would have continued to be his friend, I would have continued to like him. He would have continued to avoid the subject. And it just shows like you need to deal with someone I think mature enough to like talk about this with. But in my case, it was like it ended everything. Like that was my personal experience. After I said that, boom, done and gone. So, but it was my choice because what am I gonna do? Just act like it didn't happen and continue having fun while I'm like, damn, I really wanna be with this person, you know?
Yeah. I think it is a different response and dynamic depending on the emotional maturity of both people and also who's the one admitting feelings, right?
Right.
So for me, right, if I was in a friendship and that friend admitted their feelings for me, but I didn't reciprocate those feelings, I didn't feel the same way. I would handle the situation by firstly acknowledging their feelings. I wouldn't want to do what your friend did to you and just pretend like you never said anything.
Right.
I would acknowledge the feelings and, thank them for being honest and vulnerable because I know it's scary to admit to someone that you like them, especially when you are unsure of how they feel. So, like, first and foremost, I just want to acknowledge that they did say something and just thank them for speaking up. And then be honest with them about how I feel in just the most clear, concise way possible. I think clarity is kindness, and the kindest thing that you can do for another person is to just be very clear and honest and just say, hey, I don't share the same romantic feelings.
But here are some qualities I really like about you as a friend. And is that something that we can work on, or do we need to take a break? Because I do think that it's always going to be harder for the person who's confessing their feelings if it's not reciprocated than the other person. But I mean, who's to say that it's not hard for the other person too to be like, oh my gosh, my friend fell in love with me, but I don't see them like that, but I love them as a friend and I don't want to lose them. So it's like, what do you do then, right?
Right. And I think this is where the emotional maturity comes in. I think you bring up a really good point, right? If someone is confessing their feelings for me, that's a friend, and I don't feel the same way, first and foremost, acknowledging their feelings, making sure that they feel heard. I heard you, then honestly communicating with kindness and clarity. I'm sorry, but I don't feel the same way. And then basically what you said, giving space if needed. Understand that they might need some space and time to process their emotions. And if they ask for space, to respect that. And maybe even to ask them if that's what they want, before they have to ask for it. Just,
Yeah.
hey, thanks for being honest with me about your feelings. I'm really sorry, but I don't feel the same way about you. I do really value you as a friend, though, and I would like to be friends, but I don't want to put you in an uncomfortable situation. Do you still want to be friends, or do you want to take some space and
And
then
then,
possibly circle
yeah,
back and,
rekindle.
and decide, a month or two or three from now if we want to continue being friends or not? I think if you're both open to continuing a friendship and you both agree, I still want to be friends, you don't feel the same way, I respect that, let's just stay friends. In that situation, the best thing to do then is to reinforce the friendship.
Yeah.
So if you both are open to it, express that you value the friendship and want to maintain it. Be prepared to reinforce the fact that it is a friendship and know that like it might be uncomfortable and the dynamic will shift for a little bit. But if you just maintain that it's a friendship and you continue moving forward on the vibe of friendship, eventually it will rebalance itself.
I think maybe it could even bring you guys closer. Because, maybe you guys had that vulnerable talk in that vulnerable era, and then the one person who confessed moves on, and now you guys can really blossom as truly just friends.
Right. I think in this situation, just like pretty much every question we've answered, the other best practice would be to set clear boundaries. So, to avoid misunderstandings or discomfort, establish boundaries that will be comfortable for the both of you. This might mean reducing one on one hangouts for a while or avoiding situations that might blur the lines. And so, by setting clear boundaries and reinforcing the friendship, I think you can, even if one person admits feelings for the other, still continue on with a friendship.
I agree. I think a friend who's unwilling to communicate is a red flag. Because, I mean, it's kind of tying into like, well, what kind of people are we dealing with, for all of these questions? Like, I think there are people that you can have these conversations with and move forward with. And I think there's people that are absolutely impossible to deal with. And it's unrealistic to think that you can have this situation moving forward. Like, what would you say to maybe the people who are listening who are in such a bad place, who don't feel like either of these options are even viable? What then?
What do you mean they're in a bad place and neither of these situations are viable?
Like, let's say that the person that they're dealing with is extremely toxic. They can't even talk to them about how they feel, or
I mean, why are you friends with a person that's so toxic that you can't have a conversation with them?
exactly. So, what are some red flags that you think we should look for to avoid these people moving forward that kind of show you that the friendship is not going to be long lasting?
I literally have an entire book about this called Safe People, and it talks about characteristics that safe people have, people that are safe to have relationships with, friendships with, etc. And then characteristics that unsafe people have. Editing Natalie back again just to say if you've never read this book, you need to. Safe People: How to Find Relationships That Are Good for You and Avoid Those That Aren't, by Henry Cloud and John Townsend. Anywho, back to the pod. Hope you're enjoying it so far.
Now, I've been thinking a little bit about this, but do you think there's ever a time to let friendship go?
Yeah, I think there's the possibility of deciding to let it go, but I don't think it has to be that way every single time. Something that I was talking to a friend of mine about recently was this idea of a pendulum. And we were discussing that in every long-standing relationship, when you've been friends with someone for a long time, you've been in a relationship with someone for a long time, you're gonna go through seasons where maybe for a period of time you're on the very left side of the pendulum. You are super tight, you are spending all your time together, you're really in sync, you're vibrating at the same frequency. It's like just absolutely yes, you're in flow. And then sometimes the pendulum's going to swing all the way to the right side. And it's going to feel like we are living these lives parallel to each other, but we're not intertwined anymore. You're
Yeah.
focused on your goals, I'm focused on my goals, we're growing independently, and our relationship is sort of on the back burner, and it's not the main priority right now. We're not as close as we used to be, like, we're a little bit more entrenched in our area of focus. And oftentimes this happens in friendships where, for example, like my high school best friend and I, in high school, we're super tight. We're super close. We're
Right.
spending like every single day together. We're hanging out constantly, right? What happens? We graduate and the pendulum swings from the very left to the very right. Suddenly, we're both in college at different schools. We're working different jobs. We're in new relationships. And now I'm focused on my academic career. She's focused on her academic career. We're focused on building our resumes, doing these internships, working these jobs to pay for school. And, now it's like, yeah, I'm still a part of your life. Like, yes, you're still my friend. And, I would still consider us to be close, but I'm kind of watching you live your life and you're watching me live mine, but we're not really intertwined the same way we were when we were on the left side of the pendulum, right? But because it's a long-standing relationship, over time, what happened? We swung back to the left side of the pendulum. Now we're in a place where we talk multiple times a week, we visit each other, we hang out, and we're back to being super close, super tight because we've graduated. We're in a stable place in our life where we're not actively pursuing any new goal. Life is kind of stable at the moment. And so there's just more room for us to be super in sync and super close again. And so I think when it comes to relationships, sometimes we think when we swing from the very left side of the pendulum to the very right side of the pendulum, that when we hit the right side and we're not as close anymore, we're like, well, I guess it's time for the relationship to end. Like, I guess it's not meant to be anymore. Like, maybe this is a good time to let the friendship grow or go because we're not buddy buddy anymore. And it's like that's not always the case. Sometimes it's just a season of your friendship where you're not
As close
as
as
close.
Well, I mean, you guys are still close, I would say. It's just in a different aspect. Are there friends that you have that you don't talk to for 6 months, but then when you do, it's like you guys are super close again and like nothing's changed?
Right.
So I think it all kind of goes back to it being a little bit more circumstantial, I think, if there is more of like a moral value difference between the two of you guys versus like shit's just happening right now. I need to put my energy here and like let's rekindle later.
Absolutely. And that's a great point. Do you think there's ever a time to let a friendship go? Yes, when there's a value change, like you just said, or when the relationship is very evidently toxic, or when there's constant boundary crossing, that person isn't respecting the boundaries and expectations you've laid out for the friendship, or when that friend is making you feel like shit. They're dulling your sparkle, they're not uplifting you,
No.
they're low key your hater.
They're the ops.
They're the op.
They're the ops for real. And sometimes you do encounter people like that. I myself, I am lucky I haven't had many of those. But for those of you guys that do, just be careful. Also, let's talk about maybe the friendships that you have that are short-lived. No beef happened, and you guys just like stop talking, and like the friendship let go, and you guys don't know anything about each other. Things have gone by, and it's just different now. Like, I feel like there's so many people that I also know too, where nothing necessarily happened, but it's not like we both cared enough to continue that relationship. So it's kind of just like you know, you meet some people, you have fun, and that's it. And it's kind of
Right.
gone.
The literal definition of seasonal friends.
Yes, definitely. And those people though, I will say, a part of me has so much love for them even after because I'm like, wow, you were here for such a short but good time. Nothing bad happened, and I'm seriously wishing you the best moving forward too. But we don't know anything about each other. We're not in touch, but you know, you have that fond memory and know that, you know, they're doing their own thing out there.
Right. And I think if it is a seasonal friendship, you're not going to be sitting there pondering, is this a good time to let the friendship go? It kind of naturally just disappears from your life,
Yeah.
weirdly, but I think there are times to let friendships go. And I would say that those times are always if the friendship is problematic or if you had a value change and that person no longer aligns with the values that you have. So, maybe you guys used to party together a lot and that was the life you were living and now you're not interested in doing that anymore or you had a value change and you've left that life behind but that person is still in that phase of their life or maybe that's just something that they personally value. In those situations it is okay to let that friendship go if that was something that was sustaining your friendship.
Yeah.
But I also think it's important to know, right? There's situations where we might be thinking, oh, is it a good time to let a friendship go? Because we're not as close right now, or we're not talking as much right now, but nothing necessarily bad has happened. I think in those situations, there's no need to end the friendship.
No, but how much effort are you putting in to continue? You know what I mean? It's like these people, you may not talk to them for 6, 8 months, but like you still feel like they're friends. I don't know. I feel like that's kind of a gray area for some folks. They might consider that to be like, well, we're not friends anymore. What's done is done. Others might think, oh, well, they're just my friend, but it's super distant. I think it kind of goes back to what kind of values you hold. I think for most part, like the people you surround yourself with should be pretty active in your life, but I also don't think that there's any kind of bad or wrong vibe of having people who are a little bit further out from that you talk to maybe once or twice a year. Because I think you can still be really good friends with people that you don't talk to every single day.
No,
I
100%.
mean, think about our parents who are from Europe. They have a lot of friends back at home and they don't talk every day, but they're tight. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, yeah, cross-continental friendships especially, like you're just not going to be able to hang out very often. You're going to see each other
no.
once a year at best, with full-time jobs and kids and families.
And it really goes back to like the whole what kind of life you're living. Because if you do have a family, husband, kids, pets, all that good stuff, a demanding job, like the last thing that you can do is just get up and fly to the United States or Spain or wherever your friend is. It's not the biggest priority, but that still doesn't mean that they don't value you as a person and as a friend. So I think, like I mentioned before, it's not always super personal. And I feel like for me, personally, I have been taking things a little personal, but it's not always.
Yeah, it's really not.
I mean, it's not always. It's like people come and go, and everyone has their own shit going on.
Right. And I think something that I've always really loved about friendship is that there is just more flexibility for ebb and flow in a friendship than there is in any other kind of relationship.
I must agree.
So there are friends that are seasonal where it's just for one season, but there's also friends that are seasonal reoccurring. And by that I mean, maybe you only see them like during December when you go home for the holidays.
Right.
They're like a hometown friend that you literally only see once a
But they're
year.
always
They're
there.
always there, and you always have a great time that one time a year that you see that friend. And like they could be a reoccurring seasonal friend where it's like a reoccurring character.
And shit, it might be even more fulfilling than the people you see every day.
Could be. But the thing is, like, friendships just have so much more space for nuance, and you can really build a bear that into what works for you,
I
right?
love
Like
that.
you can have a tennis only friend, be like, we literally only are friends because we play tennis together every Sunday.
That's just
Like
how it
that's
is.
just how it is. And like that is the beauty of friendship is that it is so custom creatable I don't even know if that's a word. Like,
I
you
like
can
what
really
you
make
said, like
that.
build a bear your friendship because you really can.
You really can. And
Because I
so,
feel like there's so much less pressure than a romantic relationship when building a friendship. And
right.
you can really mold it and shift it and shape it into what you both perceive as workable for you.
And I think the reason that is because when it comes to a friendship, it's normal and very okay and societally acceptable for that person to only be contributing into your life in one capacity. Like, it's okay to have a friend that is literally just good for hikes.
Yeah,
Whereas as a romantic partner, people are going to be like, oh, like, what do you mean they're not your everything? Like, what do you mean they're not your
right.
only
They're like, oh,
life?
you guys only hike and that's all you have in common. It's like there's so much more. Right. So it's a lot different, I would say. That's
Right.
true.
Which, like, I don't think is healthy in romantic relationships to expect your partner to be all the friends combined
No, no.
because no single person is going to be all the things together.
Well, I always tell everyone, like, no matter who you end up with, there's no such a thing as a perfect person for you. I personally don't believe that there is a perfect person for you, but I do believe that there is a person out there for you who will make it happen to make it work. And that ends up being the perfect person for you. So, definitely, same thing with friendships. I mean,
And the beauty of friendships is you can have as many friendships as you need to fulfill your friendship box in your life.
yeah,
You know, if you have a list of things that you want in a friend, you can theoretically complete that entire list by mixing and matching different people.
totally. And it does not have to stem from one person. One person doesn't have to be your everything. That's what's so great about friendships is like everyone brings something different to the table. And then when you mix them all together, you get like the best experience. Think
Exactly.
of it as like a dinner party. You have a dinner party for Thanksgiving. You have a bunch of your different friends come over. Each friend has some different aspect that you really enjoy, and together it builds a whole community.
Yes. So, in this question, do you think there's ever a time to let a friendship go? Yes, if the friendship is problematic or taking away from your life or not serving you or devaluing your value system.
Yes, big on the if your values don't align, I think definitely it's okay.
Yes. But if it's just, oh, we're only friends because of this one thing, should I just not be friends with them then? No, I don't.
No.
Keep that friend.
Yeah, like you said, if it's your friend who just likes to hike and you guys only hike, like why not? I mean, you have a hiking buddy, and maybe throughout the time something else will arise that you guys have in common, but I don't think it's worth, putting that person on the back burner just because you don't have 10 million things in common.
Yeah, exactly. Next question. How much compromise is necessary to have a healthy friendship?
I really want to highlight that I feel like in order to have a healthy friendship, you don't need to compromise much. Because I think if you put two completely different people who feel like they need to compromise a lot more than they should, it's going to create friction, it's going to create tense aspects. I just don't think it's something that is viable in that aspect, but I think it's really possible to compromise and have a great friendship, but you can't compromise too much, is what I feel like.
I think I agree that in a friendship, there really isn't much compromise needed. If you are friends with someone and you're having to compromise a lot, and you feel like that's kind of all you're doing is compromising, then there's a good chance that that person is just not meant to be a friend in your life.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, there's billions of people on this earth for you to be friends with. And especially now with like technology and the ability to have long distance friends, you can definitely find someone who is just aligned with you in your value system, in your morals, who has similar interests. And you really don't need to go out of your way to compromise much for a friendship. Because I feel like if all you're doing is compromising,
like who's having a good time? Nobody, right?
right. So I think compromise comes up in every healthy relationship, friendships included. But with the right friends, there isn't much of that necessary.
No, I don't think so. And especially friendships have so much less pressure. So basically it feels like you can just be yourself without having to compromise. Let's say if your friend really hates scary movies, perhaps, but you like scary movies, maybe a compromise could be okay, we'll watch something like mediocrely scary.
Yeah. Or, I mean, kind of like what we already talked about, just find a friend who's into that thing.
Yeah,
You
that's true.
can literally have an unlimited amount of friends. Nobody is capping the amount of friends that you can have. And so if you have one friend that like loves traveling and then you have another friend that's a homebody, you're also a homebody, then just don't travel with the friend that likes traveling. Find a
Right.
friend who's a homebody. Hang out with the friend that's a homebody. You can have other things in common with your travel friend.
You know what? You're so right. I guess really you don't have to compromise much in a friendship because, like you mentioned, you can outsource for each different activity. But also, if you have someone who's really good at tennis and you like playing tennis, you can continue building the relationship with that person without compromising. I want to go watch this scary movie after, and they don't. You know, like you guys can still have fun at tennis, and then you meet up with someone else for the scary movie. And maybe the other person who didn't go to the scary movie after tennis is going to build gingerbread houses with someone else. You know what I mean? So I don't think in friendships you should compromise too much.
No, there really should never be too much
That's more
compromise.
relationship material, I'd say.
It is truly. Yeah. No, I think in a friendship, like what are we compromising on? Like where we want to eat? Like
Right.
that's those are the kind of things that should be compromised on. And I'm not saying like there should never be compromise in friendships. You know, you'll still have situations where it's like, hey, you picked the restaurant last time. This time I'll pick the restaurant.
Yeah.
Whatever. You know, or like compromising of, hey, I kind of want Italian food today. You want Vietnamese food today. Like let's
Or
brainstorm something we both want and compromise on where we're eating.
exactly.
Like little things like that, fully on board. But I don't know. I personally don't see the need for heavy compromise since friendships are so,
Like no pressure.
yeah, like,
They're custom. You
yeah,
can build them to how you would like, really.
I
As long as
just,
it's not hurting the other person, of course.
right. You know, so since friendships are a relationship form where you can really have an unlimited amount of people, then compromise is low bar.
I feel like compromise could be something too, like your friend lives far, you've been driving out to them a lot, but maybe it's time for them to drive out to you a couple times. You know, they're compromising to meet you in your city instead. Because I think
I don't
nobody,
even know if I'd consider that a compromise. Like that's just
well, for some people, I would say it's a compromise to be like, oh my gosh, I have to drive an hour to see my friend. Like, I don't want to go. But for some, it's like, oh, an hour is no big deal. So I think that could be a potential compromise. But for me personally, I don't think driving an hour to see my friend is a big deal. But if I feel like I'm going out of my way every single week to make that drive and they didn't come see me a single time, then maybe I'd be like, well, they should come see me a couple times and compromise coming out here.
I think that just goes more into, hey, like we've both decided to invest into this friendship. We both decided that this is a relationship we want to have. So
Yeah, that's
mutual
true.
effort needs to be put into it.
Definitely.
And that's just really with any friendship, right? Ew.
Guys, I just touched her foot.
It's
It's
disgusting.
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 Well, on another note, girl, do you believe that people are too cutthroat these days about their standard for friendships? I feel like yes, but I also feel like absolutely not.
Do I believe that people are too cutthroat about their standards for friendship nowadays? I feel like people are too quick to cut others off. And I don't think this is like exactly the question. I think when it comes to initial standards, no, they're not cutthroat enough. A lot of times people will just fall into friendship with anybody or start a friendship with anybody, but then they're really cutthroat in cutting people off instead of showing grace or
Making the communication and make the change.
right, exactly. It's
So
like
true.
giving the person the opportunity to grow into the kind of friend that you're hoping for. People failing to communicate their boundaries and expectations at the start, and then using that as a reason to cut someone off later, right? It's like,
No, that's actually such a good way to put that because it's like most people are friends with whoever easy on, and then it's not till later on that they feel like they're more cutthroat about what they're going to tolerate. Because I feel like maybe it's something that builds up.
Right. And so I think if people were a little more cutthroat about their standards for friendship at the very start, then they wouldn't be cutting people off as quickly later. You know, if you filter first, then you're less likely to cut off people later. But I think nowadays, most people, they'll start friendships with kind of whoever falls into their path and then maybe display problematic or toxic behaviors by ghosting friends or cutting people off with no explanation
So true.
instead of having initial standards and being like, oh, I want to only have friends that have similar value systems, or these are my priorities for friendship. I want to make sure that I'm only friends with people that have the same priorities for friendship or same desires and expectations for the relationship. And then when conflict arises, which in it inevitably will, conflict arises in literally every form of human relationship. Conflict arises between coworkers, conflict arises between siblings, between family members,
Teachers at school,
literally anyway. If there's people involved, there's conflict.
word.
So it's one of those things where, if we were a little bit more high standard and cutthroat at the start before falling into friendship with people, there would be less cutting them off later, in my mind, probably, possibly.
I think that's a really good point, though. But do you feel like most people even know what they're looking for in a friend? I feel like a lot of people aren't asking themselves the question of, what do I consider to be a good friend?
Yeah, I feel like it's a huge problem, and I don't think people are self-reflecting enough or asking enough. And this goes back to something I brought up way earlier, which we'll see if it's even gonna end up in this podcast. But people are not self-reflecting enough and self-assessing enough to figure out what they're looking for in a friendship. And so they get into friendships with just anybody, and then they get upset over little things or cut people off quickly or fail to show grace. But it's because they didn't have any standards for the friendship in the first place or didn't communicate their expectations and boundaries because they didn't know what they were. And I think this goes back to something I was talking about earlier. It's because friendships are such an underrepresented, understudied form of relationship that we're not taught how to be good friends. We're not taught how to discern what a good friend is. We're not taught really much of anything about friendship.
Not at all.
And you kind of just go through the motions. And initially, we create friends just based off proximity. It's, hey, we are in a class together and we sit next to each other and we become friends because I'm like in proximity with you all day, every day. And so naturally, we kind of just form a friendship. And then when you get into adulthood and you actively have to go out of your way to make friends, you're suddenly faced with like,
Adversity.
yes,
Dude, you're so right. Like, when you're in school, it's so much easier to make friends versus when you're not.
but it's so unintentional when you're in school. You have no intention. You're not
Yeah.
choosing friends because of their value system. You're not choosing friends because they inspire you. You're not choosing friends because they uplift you. And this is how we accidentally end up in toxic friendships when we're younger, problematic friendships, friendships where there's a lot of jealousy, where there's like underpinning emotions, maybe like frenemy vibes,
Yeah.
right? And we end up in those friendships because there's no intention. Then we get older and we don't know how to form friendships, how to find friendships, and we're like, why am I so lonely?
Oh my gosh, you're so right.
It's like because there was no like class or transition period of how to make friends.
Yeah.
There's so many podcasts and information out there of, how to discern if this is the one for you, how to find a husband, like what kind of characteristics to look for in a romantic partner.
Yeah, it's always really romantic based, not friendship based. There's,
Right.
yeah, like you said, not a lot of study out there about friendships.
And so it's like, of course, you're going to struggle finding your tribe of people and your good friends if you don't even know yourself what you're looking for because you've never needed to ask. Friends have always kind of been handed to you because of the activities you were in, the classes that you were in, and the proximity. If you grew up in a church, you just saw the same people, you became friends. If you did a sport, you saw the same people, you became friends. You know, if you went to public school, private school, any school, really, right? Other than
Well,
homeschool, but
that's so true. I mean, think about how many people that you used to talk to in high school because you saw them every single day. Then you graduate and you realize like this person isn't really your person and you guys aren't really hanging out every day anymore.
you're like,
So it
actually,
is
the
very
only thing we had in
circumstantial.
common was our class.
Right. And like we had fun while the time was there, but like, are we gonna push it past that? Probably not.
Yeah.
It's
So,
so true. It's really circumstantial versus like when you're an adult and you actively look for XYZ characteristics in your friendships.
so yeah, regarding the question, do you believe that people are too cutthroat about their standards for friendship nowadays? I would say no. Most people don't have standards for their friendships until they get into a friendship, start noticing people's behavior, and then suddenly they're like, I don't like that, I don't like that, I don't like that.
Yep.
And then they become really cutthroat
I think they have to have that experience first.
to figure out what their standards are.
Exactly. But
Yeah,
it all goes back to like these people haven't done the self-reflection to what they consider to be a good friend and like who they'd want to spend their time with. And
right,
that's such a big thing. I feel like nowadays people don't want to do self-reflection, one, because it's hard, it can be scary, it could be, too time consuming, or, they're afraid to find out XYZ. And using XYZ because it's so broad, like you'd never know what people are going through. But I think at the end of the day, everyone has their own shit and they need to figure it out. And they need to do the self reflection. You need to know what kind of friends you want to have, what kind of man or woman you want to have, what kind of parent you want to be. Like, you need to do the self reflection in order to have the life that you want.
right. And friendships are a huge part of that. If we had a better idea of what we're expecting in a friendship, it would be easier to show grace, compassion, empathy, and have long lasting, sustained friendship over the course of our life. Because if we knew our standards from the get go, then it would be easier to discern who we want to invest into as a friend.
It's true. It really is true. I think most people are not cutthroat about their friendships until they realize the negative aspects of the people that they might be hanging out with. I don't think you realize what you like and don't like until you see what you don't like. You know what I mean? Because I don't think people look at what they like and think, oh, I love this. I think that they don't realize that they love it until they see something that they hate and they're like, wait, I don't want to be a part of that. I'd rather be a part of what I have or what I had. I don't think it's something that they realize right away.
Yeah, I agree.
I just think people should be a little bit more cutthroat and have better friendships. Now, you guys, we're going to end the pod with a fun little question for you guys. I know that fall is coming up. To everyone who celebrates Thanksgiving and Halloween, I hope you get down and shimmy. But as we go into the fall or holiday season, what are some fun activities that you guys can do with your friends?
Ooh, I love this because I love me a community moment. Okay, so I don't know why, but I feel like the time for candles is fall.
Totally.
It just is. Like the aesthetic of a candle is just screaming fall.
Fall, I wouldn't look at summer
Ever.
each time and be like, I need to light a candle.
Yeah, you don't think about it.
No.
I mean, I still do,
You
but
want to be snowed in or like leaves falling and
for the
have that
candles to be
candle.
on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I was thinking something like a really fun activity to do with your friends, if you're looking for some fun holiday seasonal activities, is candle making. I have a bestie, her and her boyfriend make candles together, and they made me this really super awesome, fun custom candle. Actually, you know what?
That is so sweet.
I have another friend who has a candle business, Lydia Co. I will drop the link down below. Sponsor your friends.
Hell yeah.
So, yeah, candle making.
Candle making is a really good one. Candles are such a vibe. Also, if your electricity goes out, boom, you got a candle.
Yes. What is another thing that people can do this fall holiday season?
I absolutely love, this is a classic, pumpkin painting or carving. I mean, come on. Who's not carving or painting a pumpkin?
I know. I feel like you're missing out if you're not having a nice like wine and dine situation, but instead of dinner, it's the pumpkin.
Exactly. Like, and you know what? It doesn't have to be perfect. And also, you don't have to be a kid to do this. I feel like so many people think that, oh, like, I'm too old for this. No, you're not. Just have some fun, be creative. I think pumpkin painting with some wine, maybe like a little pre-meal or post-meal after, could be a lot of fun.
Yes, always a good time. And you can make it like Instagram poll where you post pictures of all the pumpkins and have people vote what their favorite pumpkin
Which
was.
one is the spookiest?
Which one is the ugliest?
Hey, which one is the most freaky?
Can you match my freak?
Hey! Is somebody gonna match my freak for real?
Obviously, an iconic fall holiday season idea is a costume party. I mean, I'm sorry, what? How are you having a holiday season, a fall season, a happy Halloween with no costume party?
No, it's so true. And you guys don't wait last minute to get your costume.
No,
Like, that shit
actually,
is serious.
start brainstorming your costume now.
No, and like you could go so simple. I mean, you could be literally the girl who chews gum from Willy Wonka with a plain blue tracksuit, blonde wig, and you paint your nose blue. Like, I don't feel like you need to miss out on that. Or just buy a simple scream mask and call it a day. Definitely costume party. That's a lot of fun. Everyone has different ideas, and when you guys all link up, it'll be fun. I mean, who's dressing up throughout the rest of the year? Not really.
I know. It's really a bummer. I love
I
Halloween.
love Halloween. Some people don't like it, but I'm like,
It is literally our family's favorite holiday.
it is. It's our family's favorite holiday. Our parents love having a bonfire in front of the house with candy,
All their friends.
bratwurst, all their friends, definitely. So, and people on the street love it too. They come, they enjoy. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
But if you did want to get a little bit more creative, you could do like a murder mystery dinner party.
Honestly, I feel like for fall specifically, like those spooky season vibes, murder mystery dinner party,
It's a
I,
hit.
that's a hit. That's
It's spooky, it's scary, it's authentic and suspenseful. Like you don't know who is who. I mean, every murder mystery is a little bit different, but I think if you're giving like Miasteczko Palermo, do you remember that game where oh
no.
my gosh, that was like I guess it's what's called like mafia out here.
I literally don't know that game.
Oh my gosh, we'll
You've
have to
lost
talk a
me.
little bit about that. But I do think that a murder mystery could be fun. You guys could even dress up for that too. I mean, Sherlock Holmes, Nancy Drew kind of vibe.
Wait, actually, that'd be kind of iconic. A murder mystery dinner party where you dress up as a character from a murder mystery TV show or um a murder mystery movie.
The Murder in the Building or whatever was
Oh
that
my God,
show.
stop. I literally rewatched that show like 8 times. Only Murders in the Building.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
You know what? If one of my friends isn't hosting a murder mystery dinner party this year, I'm hosting because now it's out there and it needs to happen.
Count me in. Fall season is coming up. We'll have to do one of these things from the list.
Absolutely.
But I also think that a masquerade ball could be fun. I mean, like, of course, you know everyone who's coming, but if they have the mask on, it's a little seductive, a little bit more. Is somebody gonna match my freak?
I don't know why, but Masquerade Ball just gives me fall energy. I don't know, like there's an episode of Gossip Girl and they have that Masquerade Ball and I think it's like at the start of the year, it's like homecoming time,
Yeah.
and I feel like with like this season where it's like September, October, like homecoming is happening, these balls are happening, like these dances are happening and like it just I don't know. I
Well,
mean,
it's so true because think about A Cinderella Story with Hilary Duff.
oh my
They
God.
have the Halloween event, whatever, but then they have the masquerade.
And the masquerade ball is like their homecoming dance.
Yes,
Yes, because
exactly.
like remember she was like, "You're taking me to homecoming," and then he broke up with her ass.
Ah, iconic, but yes,
Chad Michael Murray was a staple
he is so
in those
fine.
2000 movies.
He is so fine. And for all you guys watching, we're gonna be doing a movie episode of some iconic films that you guys need to watch. Maybe we'll include a little fall holiday section in there for you guys too, actually. Some Halloween Town.
Oh my God, such a good movie. I watched that with Sierra
Witches.
last year. Bless. Um, Last suggestion that I can think of for this fall holiday season, activities to do with your friends. That's not my suggestion.
No, that's my suggestion. It's air dry clay, you guys. Now, I've seen a lot of people on TikTok buying clay, and then they'll kind of shape it into whatever. It could be a pumpkin, a penguin, a rose, whatever you like. You can find a bunch of different air dried clay samples online, but you guys can make some really cute holiday themed figurines. And then once they're done drying, you can keep them for later.
Actually, I saw the air dry clay, but make it magnets.
Ooh,
And they made fridge magnets like on an Instagram reel, like these girls that got together. And I think that would be super cute, like for like the fall or holiday season,
yeah.
is literally to do like either like a spooky season themed where you make magnets that are like little ghosts or gremlins or whatever. Or you can even do, like more broad stroke fall where you do like leaves or I don't know,
A cup
pomegranate apples.
a cup of tea or coffee, perhaps. Pumpkin
Yeah.
spice latte, you guys. That's coming in season 2.
Yeah, so that could be really cute just to make like mini fridge magnets with the air dry clay.
That would be cute. And honestly, I haven't heard them doing fridge magnets.
Well, friends, thank you so much for tuning in to the Too Scared to Ask podcast. It's been really awesome having you join us here today for this friend episode. There were so many questions that we did not get around to, so we'll be doing a friendship part two, probably part three and part four. Friendship is genuinely one of my all-time favorite topics to talk about, and hopefully you gained some insight or just some entertainment from listening to us discuss these friendship questions. I want to thank my brother Marek for being on the podcast with me so I didn't have to do this alone. Blessings.
And I just want to say I'm so thankful for having me on the podcast. I feel like we've gone through some really good topics. I think we brought different views of each question and what people can do. And once again, you guys, don't take this with too much seriousness. Definitely apply to what you feel like is right in your life. But be a good person, have some fun, and we'll be dropping some more episodes soon.
Yes, definitely. And see you next week.
Bye!
I don't know what you're doing. I
I'm
can't hear.
just taking notes.
Oh, okay.